And then I will introduce a guest that I was jumping for joy when I got the confirmation that this guy was going to take some time out to pour into us. So I'm excited to present who we got here. Let's see here. Tyler, what's up, brother? How are you, man? Sorry to hear about your grandpa.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And congratulations on the birth of another child, man. Congrats on the expansion of the family.
Yeah, let's finish off on.
Unfortunately, I had the full cycle this week, but
yeah,
congrats and sorry.
Gotta get grounded. Well. I'm good.
Yeah, a lot of love your way either way, brother.
I appreciate it, man.
Mr. Labasco, Wayne Labasco, what's up, brother? How are you?
Good. How you doing, man? Yeah, appreciate the nudge, the invite, get me going here.
Yeah, I'm starting to blast you with the emails now. I figured that would help.
Yeah.
I'm getting real tech savvy on you. You're getting emails now.
Bring the heat, right?
Mr. DeDuke, Brian, great to see you. All righty. We're going to have everybody start signing on. Mr. Ravoni, Heather, hello and welcome. All right, so, guys, I am going to get started here. So, a few weeks ago, I don't know, it's probably been a month now. I've been saying a few weeks for about a month now. As you guys saw, I was in this mastermind a friend of mine, Scott Duffy, had. And, typically, I'm never surprised. He always brings ridiculously amazing, successful guest speakers. And then there was just one that literally just took the room, right? And he called, who was going to be our guest speaker, he called him up, and immediately, like, everybody's eyes were just like, whew. And he just took the room, grabbed everybody with his energy, and Scott introduced him, and Greg has done some incredible things. One thing that I want you guys to also know about is, so there is one of the, rated with Success Magazine and other entrepreneur magazines, one of the best business masterminds in the world called The Secret Knock. And it all started with this man, Greg Reid. He's a TV producer. He's got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's published 100 books. It's so funny, Greg. There's a few members in the community when I announce you that are reading your book now. I think it's 3 Feet from Gold.
That's awesome.
And Will Garcia. Guys, listen, man, from what he's accomplished and the people that he's interviewed in The Secret Knock, we're talking about the owner of Lamborghini, not people who just pose with Lamborghinis, presidents, and the list goes on. I am just very excited to have him come and share his experiences. And guys, when he teaches, it's like, I wish if I could be a quarter of the energy and the way that his charisma, when he pours into people, I think we'll all be doing fine if we can just take a quarter of what this guy brings. So, Greg, I appreciate you taking the time to pour into this community. I'm very honored and excited to have you on here. And welcome to the Harvest Performance Coaching community. As I said, we got business people all over the country and growing. And we're just excited to hear from you, my friend. Thank you so much for hopping on.
Absolutely. And are we going to do interview style, or do you want me to yak a little bit, or what would you like to do?
So ideally, I would like for you to kind of just talk about your journey on, where you got to right now. Maybe, talk about, I know that you do coach on, wealth and stuff like that. And you have
all right. I got it. So, hi, everyone. I'm Greg. I'm here in San Diego, hanging out. Like I said, the sun finally came out. We're fired up. Can go to the beach after doing this conversation. And like I was mentioned, look, everyone always talks about the successful businesses, but they don't talk about the stinkers that failed miserably, right? And they're all part of the process. And I realized for myself is if you surround yourself with people that are getting the results that you want for yourself, eventually you could add your own spin and do it too. So what he mentioned being an author. Now, when you write a book, as I mentioned, this is the first one I ever did. It was called The Millionaire Mentor. And when you write a book, you do something called the query letter. It says who you are, what's your message, why you're an expert, who's going to read your book. Well, I sent 8 of these query letters out every single day and was turned down 268 times in a row. Mind you, I'm dyslexic. I can't spell, I can't read very well, and I can't write. No hard feelings, right? And the 269th publisher said, yeah, we'll do your book. Just change the title, the beginning, the middle, and the end part. It was horrible. So I got a good ghostwriter who breathed life into it. And by doing so, out of this, one quote was shared 37 million times last year. Think about that. Turned down 268 times in a row. and 37 million people shared this quote. I'm sure you've seen it a million times with coffee mugs and t-shirts and stuff. It says, a dream written down with a date becomes a goal broken down becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action makes your dreams come true. Simple little quote. You've seen it everywhere, but it came from being turned down. And a lot of times people don't believe me. Like after I do a talk, they go, that's bullshit. There's no way you're turned down that time. Boom, here's all my rejection letters. I saved them all. And I saved it specifically. I put it around the wall and I taped each one of them for one specific reason. I would not let another person or even myself talk me out of what I knew to be true. Like I didn't hope, I didn't wish, I didn't believe, I just knew in my heart of heart, I was on to something special. It's kind of like right now, I'm not giving financial advice, by the way, but I'm a big crypto guy. And, things are rough right now in the crypto market and I'm going all in. I mean, it's like contrarian investing. And my, friends and everyone says, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. Yet I know in my heart of hearts, I'm doing the right thing for my future. And I realize that the most successful people, that's what they do, is that they watch the masses and then they go the opposite direction. And he mentioned earlier about Lamborghini. So it's interesting. Last thing on my bucket list, I don't know if I ever told you this or not, but I had 80 items when I was a kid. And I crossed the last one off. I wanted to get an honorary doctorate because I barely graduated high school. I wanted to be a doctor. And so what happened is a friend of mine who ran Pfizer and created all the drugs that we use today happens to know this university in India. They have 37 campuses. It's like they're Harvard. And they asked me to go out and do a commencement speech. And the last person to do it was Ted Turner, founder of CNN. And I wanted to honor them. So I asked my buddy Tonino Lamborghini to fly with me. And he and I did these commencement speeches. And I tell you that story to get to this. I said, Tonino, I go, how is it that you and your dad created so much wealth and abundance with the Lamborghini name? And here was his answer. He says, all you've got to do is create a product, good, service, or experience that people will save their money to happily hand it to you. I said, what do you mean? He says, Greg, no one's saving their money to go to your event or to buy your book. He goes, but they're cashing in their 401k to drive my car. He goes, you're not going to spend $3,000 a night to live in your apartment, but I promise you'll cash in the family vacation fund and go to Anaheim and give it to a mouse with big ears. He goes, if you can create a product, good, service, or experience that people will save their money to give to you, you'll never run out of cash. And that set with me. And so the whole idea was trying to create something that was very unique and different where people would do that. And that's why I mentioned we started Secret Knock. And the concept is it costs thousands of dollars to go, but we will not tell you where it is or who will be there. And we sell out months in advance every time for 15 years in a row. And what's interesting is that we had to start over delivering. And I realized that there's so many coaches and teachers and mentors. And we said, what if we just brought in the actual individual who did what everyone else was talking about? So like the last time we had a private Skype with Edward Snowden while he's hiding in Russia. We brought in President Vicente Fox, where he shared how George Bush tried to get him to go to war, join that whole Iraq situation. He wouldn't do it. This time we have, I'm not supposed to tell, but no one's coming here. I got Carol Baskin coming in from the Tiger King to share her side of the story, right? And the whole idea is, where could we be by surrounding ourselves with people who are doing? Like when I wanted to be a best-selling author, I went to the bookstore and I bought every best-selling book. And I called them up and said, hey, teach me. How'd you do this? What's the system? What's the racket? And they did. I didn't go to the best written book section. I didn't want to be a great writing author. I'm dyslexic. I can't do that. I went to the best-selling section. I asked them the exact process. And by doing that, sold books literally all around the world. And everyone can do the same thing. What we need to do in our lives is seek counsel and ignore people's opinion. And what's the difference? Opinion is based on ignorance, lack of knowledge, or inexperience, like your family, friends who've never done what you want to venture upon. Counsel is based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. People have paved the way. If I went to my family, friends, say I'm going to write a best-selling book, they're going to try to protect me, to keep me safe and talk me out of it. Plus, they've never written a best-selling book. But if I go to Jack Canfield, who wrote Chicken Soup for the Soul and sold 1 billion copies, he says, Greg, sit down. Here's what you need to know, and give you counsel based on wisdom, knowledge, mentorship. If we would spend our activity only seeking counsel and ignoring people's opinion, that's the day our lives would change.
And how often do we run into that all the time, man? And that's why, like, even with this, I always like to use the term, you're buying speed is what you're doing. Like even whether it's, guys, sometimes the counselor that you need is not going to be free, right? Sometimes the counselor that you need, you may need to pay, but guess what? You're buying possibly years, or, with some of these tips, guys, I know some of you may want to write books. And the crazy thing is when you do seek counsel, there's some hacks there that, a best-selling author isn't the most impossible thing in the world that sometimes we tell ourselves it is, right? But because he's saying, like, hey, what is it that you want? Take the shortcut, go there. I mean, he went to the bookstore and started calling the authors, right? And let's ask ourselves this, like, how many times, like, there are things right now that we know deep down that we truly want to do that's a massive goal, right? And the common sense thing is to, like, yeah, maybe I should call somebody who does this, but not many people do this, like, at all, and it's very surprising.
All right, and then I want to go a little bit step further, a deeper dive in this. And people say, well, it's easy for you to get access when you ask these people, but that's a bunch of crap. None of you have ever heard of me before, and they don't hear of me when I call either. And so the whole thing is I do it with specificity. This is the key. This is what's missing. Look, no one wants their brain picked. No one wants to work for free. No one wants to go to lunch with you. No one wants to have dinner. They don't have coffee. They don't want you to be of service. Here's what they want. They want specificity. So if I want access to the founder of, NASCAR, I'm going to reach out to Mike Hilton and say, hey, Mike, I need 12.5 minutes of your time. I'll cover all my own costs to fly from California to come see you in Daytona. From the moment I open the door till the moment I leave, I'll start a stopwatch for 12.5 minutes. I'm asking one question, why you didn't quit when things got rough. Well, the chance of him coming down from his office to the break room to do that is so freaking high because it's specific. And then if things go good, that conversation will continue and go and go and go. I remember doing that same thing with Truett Cathy, the founder of Chick-fil-A restaurants. I flew to Atlanta. He has this compound before he passed away. It's just gigantic. His son, Dan, now runs everything. And we were touring around. And I remember we're walking. He goes, hey, by the way, what do you think of my sandwiches? And I go, I'll be honest with you. I go, I've never had one. He goes, what? So he takes me down to the kitchen and he actually hand makes me my first chicken sandwich I ever had, a Chick-fil-A sandwich. And I said, what do successful people do different than others? And he said, successful people don't overplan. And I go, well, that kind of goes against everything we're taught. And he goes, well, last year you had a lot of plans. I go, yeah. And he goes, how did that work out for you? And he goes, the secret is to look for and capitalize on unexpected opportunity. And so what do you mean? He says, well, if I'm on my sofa in the living room and I want to get to the end of the street, I have to have my eye on the prize, stickability, that I'm going to get there no matter what. But a planner is going to plan every step, or they're going to pause and take a break. But if a sprinkler comes on and it's out of plan, it freaks them out. They run back home. It's not me. I'm looking for opportunity. Did a kid leave a skateboard or a bicycle out to make my journey short? If I get real lucky, I'll wave down a neighbor driving by and hitch a ride to the end of the street. He says, either way, I'll get to my goal, my destination. I'm just not so caught up in exactly how it has to happen.
You mentioned the term stickability, right? And I know you have a lot of speaking engagements and a whole kind of lesson on the word stickability. Would you mind and a book on stickability? Would you mind sharing what stickability is to our members?
Yeah, stickability is the perseverance factor. First of all, for those of you who don't know my work, I'm just going to get a quick little thing. 100 years ago, a book was written called this, Think and Grow Rich. Anyone ever heard of this thing before? There's this guy named Napoleon Hill that wrote this book. Well, what happened is in 1908, he got access to the richest man of the world, Carnegie, who gave him an opportunity to go meet all of his friends and write the first ever formula for success. 100 years later to the date, the Napoleon Hill Foundation and the surviving family gave me the letter. And so I have a Willy Wonka ticket to meet any human alive. And so my job is to go around the planet, meet them, find out what they did, and then write their stories and books and movies. Not a bad gig for a guy who can't read. But so one of the things that we did, the first one, as you know, was 3 Feet from Gold. You mentioned that. And we'll talk about that in a second. But this one's stickability. It's the power to persevere. The first person I interviewed I was watching 60 Minutes. And there was a cat named Marty Cooper. He invented this thing called a cell phone. Everyone's got a cell phone. And 3 days later, I'm in his office and I go, what does stickability mean to you? And he said, stickability has to be parallel with another word called flexibility. He says, if you're not willing to adapt and adjust, you'll get stuck. And just like, the guy getting too caught up in exactly how you have to get to the end of the street. And he told a story about a spider monkey. He said in the rainforest, a spider monkey is so quick and nimble, you can't catch it. But one hunter figured it out. His name was San Juan, and he took a heavy log, drilled a tiny hole, dropped a peanut inside, left at the base of the jungle. The monkey would smell the nut, come down from the treetop, reach his hand in, grab a hold of the nut, and then his fist becomes so big, he can't pull it back out, become anchored to the log. All he's got to do is let go, but he holds on with dear life, thinking that nut is nutrition. It's saving him. The hunter comes by an hour later, captures the elusive spider monkey. And he said, the moral is, are you holding on to your own nut in life? It could be in the form of a job or a deal or fear or relationship or guilt or remorse or the past. And he goes, what you're holding on with dear life, thinking it's saving you, just like the monkey thought the nut was, could also be the thing that's leading to your own demise. Sometimes you have to have the courage and the fortitude to simply let go, adapt, and adjust so you can live to fight another day.
All right. So now it brings back, because I remember we talked about this in the Deepers, guys, and let me relate this to business and life and relationships. What are you holding on to right now that you should be letting go of it, whether it's a business, whether it's an employee, whether it's a relationship, and your hand is just in that trap and it is holding you back from the growth that you truly know that you could be doing right now? I don't know. Maybe it's an emotional thing. Maybe it's, hey, well, I started this business and even though it's failing me, I just, it's like a thing that I always want to have because I feel bad if I just let go of it. Meanwhile, it's holding you in the trap. And if one day you just had the courage or somebody just pushed you to do it and you just let go to get your hand out of that trap, let go of that relationship, let go of that business, let go of that employee, whatever it is, let go of that husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that is. And now you're off to the races, guys. I don't want you to just hear this. I want everything that's coming out of his mouth to anchor in and make sure that, guys, everything you're hearing right now is relatable to your business, to your life, and to your relationships. Right? So every time you hear one of these, I want your mind to start working. How does this relate to my life? How does this relate to my business? How does this relate to my company? Because it does, right? So I wanted to make sure that you guys understood like how deep that story can really get into some of your lives. So
all right, you're gonna become my new Luther translator, like you used to see on Key and Peele. I like that. All right, so I'm going to move forward here and tell you guys a little quick story here. See, some of you got that reference. I like that line right there. That was pretty awesome. So 3 feet from gold. So it's taken from the very first chapter of this book, Think and Grow Rich. And it's a story about a guy named R.U. Darby who had gold fever, but knew nothing about gold. Again, counsel opinion, right? And he had gold fever, went out west, started digging, found a couple nuggets. He buries it, hides it, goes home and tells his family and friends. They chip in money to buy equipment to pull it out by the ore cart, and sure enough, it comes out of the ground and it's filled with gold. Holy crap, right? They start doing the happy dance, but then the gold ran out. They kept digging, but there's no more gold. Defeated, this Darby guy walks out and says, I quit, I'm done, and sees a junk man walking by. He says, hey, buddy, give me $200. We'll sell you the mine, the equipment. I'm going back home to something I know. The junk man surveying the equipment was worth 10 grand because the family chipped in, quickly gave him a few $100 for all the stuff, and Darby goes home defeated. But the junk man goes to an engineer and says, what happened? This cat hid gold and ran out. And the engineer starts laughing. He goes, that's mining 101. Everyone knows that gold runs in a straight line. It's called the gold vein. What Darby did is he came in one side, hit gold, and popped back into dirt. He said, go back to where they discovered treasure. Go 90 degrees, 3 feet the opposite way, and you'll tap back into the vein. Not only did the junk man pull millions upon millions of dollars out, but that's what fills Fort Knox today. And the moral is, how many times have we or someone we know one class short from a degree or sales or marketing or a relationship? It's easy to quit, but it's the people that persevere and go that extra 3 feet. They're the ones that we tell the story about. And the first person I had a chance to interview in this book, it was kind of like a Mission Impossible moment when the Napoleon Hill Foundation sent me a package. I opened it, and it was just a logo. That was it. But I knew what they meant, but there was no instructions, nothing, just a logo. So I called this guy, Dave Winiger, and I said, hey, let me ask you a story. I go, did you want to quit at the earliest days of your business? He goes, every day. He goes, it was 1970. I want to get into real estate. The industry fell apart. I didn't know what to do. The interest rates were crazy. He goes, for 2 years, every phone call that came in was from a bill collector because we ran out of cash. When the phone would ring, I'd run across the hall and pick it up so my poor secretary wasn't put in the middle. The third year, they threw me in jail, calling me a fraud and a liar. I said, what'd you do? He says, well, I took my attitude from trying to prove everyone wrong to just prove myself right, because I knew I wasn't what they were making me out to be. So I picked up the phone. I called every bill collector before they could call me and say, I'll be honest, all the money's gone. I don't got 50 grand I owe you, but I do have 50 bucks. I'll send it to you with the promise that I won't quit. He said, don't give up on me. I won't give up on my dream. He said, I called every bill collector every month until the fourth year, someone finally bought the first franchise called Remax Real Estate. He goes, I'm nothing. He goes, but how many people's lives were changed because I didn't quit? And he says, how do we know that someone on this conference call isn't about to give up on their own dream because Visa was calling them before we popped on?
He mentioned one more, quite a few times, man. And it's just, whether it's just the foot over or whatever that is, guys, it's just, you can relate that to one more call, one more meeting, one more week, one more year of being in business could be my breakthrough. Just get through this one more month. This is just incredible.
Okay, wait. I don't think I told this story when we were talking. I might have. When Napoleon Hill died, his last book he was supposed to write was called Success in Something Greater. Never got a chance to. So they gave it to Sharon Lecter and I. She wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad with Kiyosaki, and we did these together. And it was really interesting. Success in Something Greater, we interviewed all these amazing people, but I only remember one story. I've done so many books, but there's only one story I remember from this book, and his name is Jack. I was sitting at Sharon Lecter's, she has this mansion, by the way. We're sitting in her mansion in the living room having a mastermind. And there's this old dude there named Jack. And all of a sudden, or Fred, and he was sitting there, and all of a sudden I go, hey, Fred, what's your claim to fame? Like, what's the one thing you did that was really cool? And he goes, I invented something called a jet ski. He goes, as you sit down on it, and you drive around the water. I go, yeah, I know what a jet ski is. And he goes, yeah, I sold the patent for 75 grand. And then he turned around and started talking to someone. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I go, Fred? He goes, yeah. I go, 75 grand? He goes, yeah. I go, that's got to eat you alive. How's that your claim to fame? He goes, well, every time I'm on the freeway, I see one pulled behind a pickup truck. I go, that's my invention. That's my idea. I think it's pretty cool. I go, yeah, but it's $1 billion brand. You sold it for 75 grand. And he looked at me and says, Greg, you don't understand. At that time of my life, that 75 grand was like $1 billion. He goes, I was about to lose my home that's been in my family heritage for generations. He goes, my employees have been paid in months. It was the first time to get them caught up. He goes, I experienced something called peace of mind, something I never even knew before, and that was priceless. He said, I went through the attic and I started cleaning things out, and I found these little metal die-cast cars. He goes, a buddy of mine was in NASCAR, so I painted his number on the side and I gave it to him. The other drivers got pissed because they wanted one, so I started doing it for all the drivers. Eventually, NASCAR came up to me and just bought the rights out for me for $151 million. And he goes, sometimes as an entrepreneur, we have to do a deal in order to get us through to do another deal.
Oh my gosh, man. I'm going to let that sink into you guys, right? Like, don't be sitting, I apologize. I didn't start the call off by telling you guys not to multitask, because if you are, you're losing right now. You guys have to be focused in on this. This is life-changing advice right now. And I don't know if you also missed this, the books that he's publishing are world famous books, or partnered with people who publish world famous books that are in everybody's library in the world. So guys, you need to be locked in. Like, you have to be locked in. This lesson right here, I will never forget in my life. And you need to be the same way with that, or else you're wasting your time. So
I appreciate you saying that. And by the way, this is a truth moment. At 5 a.m., I got up to do the same talk overseas for 10 grand this morning. And so this is the exact same stuff. And so I hope there are a couple nuggets, but I'm going to share with you my favorite nugget. Are you guys ready? I hope you got a pen, because if I would have learned this when I was younger, it would have changed my life. And it's changed it since then. And it's an acronym, the letter C, the letter P, and the letter C, CPC. And it's an acronym that stands for clues, patterns, choices. And it's about accountability and responsibility for every single thing that happens. It is my fault. I'll give you an example. Let's just say, for example, I go out on a first date. I'm a single guy, and I go out with this amazing woman. She happens to be 20 minutes late. Now, look, anything could have happened. Babysitter, car accident, doesn't make a difference. But there's a little red flag. That's a clue. I like this woman. So I continue to date her, and for the 15th and 20th date, every single time she's 20 minutes late, that forms a P, which is a pattern. Now it's my C, my choice, whether I deal with it, I yell at her, I break up, or I tell her a different time, but it's not her fault. She's just late. But we try to change people to fit into our own paradigm box, and that's where the frustration comes from. We'll see someone with a bad reputation in business. They cheat your best friend. We do business thinking, oh, it'll be different for me. When things go to hell in a handbag, we're mad at the person, but we saw the clue, we saw the pattern, we made the choice. It's like seeing a rattlesnake rattle, bite your kid's sister. You go to pet it, get bit, and you're mad at the snake. Looking back in life, rarely will we be angry at relationships that failed or negotiations that fell through. We're just mad at ourselves because we stayed in too long. We saw the clues, we saw the patterns, but we made our choices late.
That's a tool right there. I mean, man, you can use that for everybody, your employees, yourself. That's a guide to life right there.
And we do it every single day in my business and stuff like that, where we'll follow clues, patterns, we make our choices. Clues, pattern, make our choices. That's why super successful people don't have a lot of willy-nilly friends and fake superficial stuff, because we're watching the clues, patterns, and we're making our choices fast. It's interesting. Bob Proctor, who just passed away, he and I wrote a book together. It's called Thoughts Are Things. Yeah, Think and Grow Rich, Thoughts Are Things. And we thought that when we started this book, that your thoughts become reality, all this woo-woo crap. And it's not. It's only your thoughts backed by action become our truth. If thoughts were things, I'd be a sliced blueberry bagel with cream cheese, because that's what I want right now. But when we're done with this and I go get it over at Einstein's, my truth becomes my reality by the actions in which we take. It's been said that we have 64,000 thoughts a day. Majority of them are negative. They're called ants, automatic negative thought. They're the reptilian part of your brain to protect you, to keep you safe, so you walk out of a cave and a dinosaur wouldn't eat you back in the day. So if we have 64,000 thoughts a day, and majority of them are negative, then everything would be chaos and drama in our life, but it's not. It's only the actions that we took towards those thoughts becomes our truth. How many times have we had a conversation in our head, when I get home, they're going to say this, and I'm going to say this, and they're going to say, oh yeah, and I'm going to have this conversation. You get home, everything's fine and nothing. You just wasted 30 minutes of a fake conversation in our head. How many times have we wasted time? How many times have we had $1 million idea in the shower, and by the time we brushed our teeth, it's down the drain, to see it on a billboard 10 years later and go, that's my idea. The only difference is the action in which we take. It's the action in the law of attraction that makes our dreams a reality. You think it, you feel it, but ultimately you got to get off your backside, take action, and you got to do it. And Bob and I had this concept, says, what if God and what if the universe delivered every single thing we ever prayed for, but we didn't like the packaging, so we sent it on its way? God, I need $100. Please, Lord, I need $100. I'll do anything. Give me $100. A neighbor pulls up. He's got a pickup truck. It's full of aluminum cans. He says, hey, man, I'm running late for a meeting. You can take all these cans, cash them in. They're worth $100. I don't want those stinky things. Get them out of here. You asked, you prayed, it was delivered, but we didn't like the packaging, so we sent it on its way. The next time we ask and pray for something, it might not be delivered the same, because we didn't have appreciation and respect for what was already given to us.
Man, it's funny. Let's look at that outside of money too. But let's just say you just need help with something, right? And God sends you, or whatever, the universe sends you someone who gives you the correct advice, right? But maybe that's not what you wanted to hear, because you're like, you know what? Like, no, I want it to be easier. Like, it can go into that direction too, because I've been there, right? It's like, damn, I'm struggling. I go to my coach or my counselor and they're like, listen, man, you ain't going to want to hear this, but this is the shit you're going to have to do. you know what? You know, that's not the answer. That was the wrong packaging. So you know what? Maybe I'm going to back off of that advice. Meanwhile, that was truly what he was sending for me to hear. So incredible, dude. It's just, wow, man, this is just crazy. This is just one thing after another that, like, I'm like,
all right. Now, I was in this movie. It's called Tapping the Source. And this is the way it is. And it gets a little woo-y. So I apologize in advance because I'm not a woo-woo guy. I just want you to hear this. So the most powerful and successful people on the planet, we're careful what we ask for because, again, it will be delivered. I believe that God answers prayers. I believe the universe gives us what we ask for and what we're ready to receive, by the way. And so I'm very cautious how we do it. And this is the way it works. Imagine in the airwaves right now, do we agree that there's country music, classical music, and, Hispanic music? And you go, obviously. But if you took a radio receiver and you dialed into an exact frequency, you could pull it down from the airwaves. Well, that's the same way. But if you wanted 100.7 FM, for those of you in San Diego, Jack FM, 100.1 won't work. It has to be exact. Well, guess what? The way that we ask these questions have to be that exact as well. And then be careful of what you ask for and get out of the way. If I sat there and looked at everything as information, kind of like Google, and said, Google, show me men's shoes. There's a billion selections. But if I said, Google, show me men's shoes, size 10, red color within a mile of my vicinity, it's a narrowed focus. That's the way that energy works and the universe works. And I believe God works. It's tapping the source. And it works like this. You dial the frequency by the questions of specificity in which we ask, like this. Unfortunately, most people say this, God, why does this always happen to me? Hold on 1 second. This is why, you dummy, and gives you more of it. God, when will this go to hell in a handbag? Tuesday at 4, here you go, right on cue. Because that's the questions we're asking. Successful people say, how can it get even better than this? What's the solution in the challenge that I'm facing right now? Who can I open up my phone right now to contact where I could build a win-win alliance relationship? Who can I walk into this? And guess what? Those answers start magically appearing. So the only difference is we really watch how we phrase our questionings that we throw out and what we're thinking, because that's what we're tuning into, dialing into, and that's what we receive in return.
Guys, this is, and I shared, there was a video a friend of mine shared with me about the conscious, the subconscious, and how it works, and everything that Greg's talking about now. I shared that video. I don't know how many of you watched it. Hopefully some of you did. But it's all alignment with this, guys. And this is a practice, right? It's not like you can't always just automatically. You got to work on being intentional with training your mind to think this way.
Okay, great point. And it doesn't come overnight. And this I'll give you a blueprint. First of all, you have to have acceptance that it's not going to happen overnight, but it's all about awareness, okay? So for example, what's more powerful than the ant, automatic negative thought, I came up with was an ape, an automatic positive experience. So to me, a giant hairy ape is bigger than a little tiny ant. So every time these ants pop up, I picture an ape just smashing them. Now, I'm human though. So when I'm driving down the road, and by the way, my ape is a Billy Joel song. So what happens, I'm driving down and someone cuts me off. Again, I'm going to go, you son of a, and all of a sudden it goes, in the middle of the night. I just go right into my song. And it took me years of practice of going, oh, there's an ant, and then an ape. And what happens now, it happens instantaneously. And I will not allow ants to even come near me, because the more that we let them infiltrate us, the more we're trying to get them off. So it's very, very important to be aware and to deal with it the moment it arises.
The craziest thing is, man, it's like the ant analogy for me, and I wrote down so many things, but I like to try and go to the simplest thing that I can remember. And what you just did right there was getting the ants away from me. That analogy, how I run that visually in my head, will impact me the rest of my life when I have these negative thoughts. I want you guys to all visualize this. All your negative thoughts, which we all have. I mean, we just heard the stats on that. Imagine them being ants. And you know what? Every time you catch it happen, you brush it off. And every day you get better and better and better at brushing off the ants. That's incredible, man.
Yeah. And by the way, I see all these comments over here. You know, the question was, you know, him and Bob Proctor. Yeah, he was amazing. Let me say it nice. Okay. Notice successful people never start with the question, why? That's true. Loving this talk. I'll tell you also things that you can be aware of. I can tell everything I need to know about something when what they're about to say by the second word of what they say. For example, when someone uses the word not as the second word of a sentence, they're trying to tell you what it truly is. It's not you, it's me. It's not that you're bald. It's not. So not is a second word. And when someone uses don't as the second word, they're attempting to direct you without hurting your feelings. I don't want to tell you how to drive. I don't want to tell you how to raise your kids. So it's interesting. So to me, I'm constantly being aware and listening to clues, patterns, choices, and following this stuff. So a lot of times people get frustrated when they have meetings with me because I'll cut them off right away because I can see exactly where things are going. And I just want to keep everything on path.
Perfect. So what I want to do, Greg, is if you could just, because this is going to tee up questions. So if you could just share some of the people that you interviewed in Secret Knock. And then, guys, what I want you to do, I want to give it to the floor. What questions do you have for Greg? There's no stupid questions. Whatever's on your mind. And maybe when you hear certain people, it's like, you know what? You spoke with that person. Like, what is the one thing, whatever that is? So that's kind of what I want to do for the rest of the call because we got about, let's just say, 25 minutes left. So, Greg, can you share all the people that you interviewed on the Secret Knock so everybody here kind of has an idea how those events go?
Yeah, but I want to be very clear. Our next Secret Knock is in less than a month, and we've been sold out for a long time. If someone is in their heart saying, I have to be to this thing, you know, I can make a room for one or two of them. But just so you guys know, up front, it's $3,000 to go, and I will not tell you who will be there or where it's at until we get you in. And then we release the secret place. And you can email me. My name is Greg, Greg, at gregreid.com. Greg at gregreid.com. Or you can find me on Instagram at Greg S. Reid. DM me, and it goes right to me and say, yeah, I was on that call. I really want to go. Put me in, and I'll get you set up. But the people that we've interviewed in the past have been like this astronaut. Scott Parazinski. He's the only person. First of all, he's an astronaut and he's a doctor. Imagine his mom at a dinner party. Oh, my son's a doctor. Oh yeah, my son's a doctor too. Yeah, but mine works with teeth. Oh, mine's walked in space, right? Like he's done 7 space missions, walked in space 5 times, went out and walked in space where you had to fix one of those impromptu Houston, we have a problem moments and actually do something in space. And he's the only person to walk in space and climb Mount Everest and to sit down and say, all right, talk about aliens, tell us what's out there. Why aren't we going back to the moon? What's going on? And to hear directly from the source was phenomenal. We've had the scientist that actually discovered the God particle and the CERN collider, where they 17 miles together and they put 2 atoms together to see what would happen. We've had everyone from politicians to, Josh Flagg from $1 Million Listings down to Survivor, people win Survivor, all the way to Oscar-winning actors, Richard Dreyfuss. You name it. Everyone comes. The people coming to this next one, it's sick. It's truly sick. This last one we just did a few months ago, or 6 months ago, was pretty cool. One of my favorite actors, his name's Gary Busey. He's a kind of a nutty actor out in Hollywood. And there's this brain guy named Dr. Joe Dispenza. And so I had Joe Dispenza come and bring his science team from NASA. And we did a live brain scan on Gary Busey on stage to see how his brain worked. It was a trip. It was all over the place, right? We brought in, it's wild. What we do is like, most people don't have a chance to, and that's why we keep it exclusive. We're known as the greatest event you cannot attend because it's so hard to get into it. And this year, Success Magazine is our sponsor. Blah, 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 blah. It's pretty cool. Anyone, I'm telling you, it's sold out. If there's 2 or 3 of you that are going, I have to go to this thing, email me, Greg at gregreid.com, or go to Instagram at Greg S. Reid and say, I have to go, and we'll get you in. And that's the way it is. Okay. Any other questions?
All right, let's go to questions here. So I know, I got to scroll up here. Guys, you can also raise your hand if you want to hit up the chat, but I do see one right here from Mitch. You mentioned, where someone is going with the 2 words, the second word, sorry. They were 2 negative words. What are positive markers you are looking for? So, Mitch, if you want to, you're more than welcome to speak and kind of elaborate on that question, or did I read it the correct way?
Yeah, I was just saying that you're looking and you're seeing, okay, I don't want to continue the conversation because this person's going in a negative direction. What are you looking for when you're saying, okay, I want to continue that conversation? I know this is going in a good direction. What markers are you looking for there?
I redirect it. So what happens is someone sits there and says, it's not that I'm trying to sell you something. I sit there and say, hey, you know what? That's awesome. So let's talk about what we are looking for. How can I be and I just redirect the question. And so that way I'm controlling where I want to go. I'm just listening and redirecting. It's like, having your kid crying and then all of a sudden saying, hey, are those new shoelaces? And they go, what? And, it just breaks the pattern interruption. So I'm just very good at doing that over time. And I think that's why I've been very fortunate to have some pretty good interviews on stage and on video from doing this. One interview we did was a guy named Frank Shankwitz. He's the founder of this nonprofit called Make-A-Wish Foundation. It's a charity that grants wishes to terminally ill kids. And we're on stage and we were wrapping up the interview and I go, Frank, let me ask you a question. And I go, what was your wish? And he goes, what do you mean? I go, well, you're the founder of Make-A-Wish. What did you ask for? And he goes, well, no one ever asked me. I says, well, I want to be the guy that grants the wish of the founder of Make-A-Wish. What do you want? I go, you want a Lamborghini? I know a guy. And he says, no. He goes, I just want my story to be told so my grandkids will know that I did something. So he signed over his life rights. And I said, Frank, I will make this into a major feature film. Just know I've never made a feature film. And he trusted me. And it took 6 years of trials and tribulations. But when it came out in 2019, we made the short list of the Oscars. We were trending worldwide on Netflix for 1.5 years, and now we're streamed worldwide from it. And now I'm making more movies. And again, people are watching this go, oh, it's easy for you. No one knew me. So what I did is I sought counsel, not opinion. I reached out to people that won Oscars. I reached out to people that were the founder of Showtime and E! Entertainment and asked these questions and how does this work? And it was finally the founder of Showtime sat me down in his mansion and here was his answer. He goes, this is the way Hollywood works. In Hollywood, a yes is a no. A no is a no. A maybe is what you're looking for. And unfortunately, I wasted years of my life believing the yeses because I'm from San Diego. Yes is a yes. It's not that way in Hollywood. So think about it. Yeah, baby, sounds great. We're going to make you a star. 13 million? You need more than that? That's just BS. I didn't know that. I just believed all that's hype. And so finally, once I started learning the code and looked for people who said, hey, yeah, that sounds good. We're not looking at that right now, but tell you what, let's put that on our back burner and put it towards the tribe and see what they think. That's what you're looking for. And so once I learned the secret Spidey Sense code, then everything started opening. And now my latest film, we're just winning all the awards. In fact, we just won the Tokyo Open Cannes Film Festival, their thingy and all this stuff right now. So it's going pretty good. But the moral of the story is asking the right questions and provoking the right answers.
Love that. We're going to go to Jim. We're going to go to Jeremy. Then we're going to go to David. So Jim Butts, you're up, brother.
Yeah. You said that you just seek counsel and you've approached a bunch of people. Is there anyone that you've sought their counsel that has denied you and turned you down that is on your list of people to either go back to or to challenge again?
I get turned down all the time. I'm doing a new book and movie right now. It's called The Secret of Happiness. And I've been working so hard to interview all these world leaders on The Secret of Happiness. And it's amazing how many people are turning me down for doing it. And I find it in itself could be a documentary of the people that I'm being turned down by. But to me, Paul J. Meyer, whatever. God, I can't believe I don't remember his name. It's some multi-billionaire guy I met years ago. I remember he sat me down in his ranch and he said, your success will be in direct proportion to your ability to withstand a no. And it just stuck with me. And he says, if you're willing to ask enough ladies out, eventually you'll get a date for the dance. And that stuck with me. And so to me, I get turned down a lot, but I don't really focus on that. Again, 268 rejects, that means nothing. Because again, I have stickability that I keep my eye on the prize, and I will never let another person, talk me out of what I can and cannot do.
what great counsel right there. Let's go to Jeremy. How do you find the mindset to get through the not so good deal? I understand about sometimes you don't have a choice, but sometimes it just feels defeating to take the bad deal as well. Is that a mentality thing, referring to the jet ski story?
Well, sometimes, we have to do a deal in order to get us through to another deal. Come on, every one of us does it. So I mean, I feel like we're just talking in circles on this one. We all know we've done it. And sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you have to do something you don't want to do in order to have the things that you want to have in the future. So that's what we do. Like right now, I'm even doing some of those myself, where I'm cashing in some very lucrative opportunities to buy more cryptocurrency, where I think I'm nuts, but I'm doing what I believe in my heart of hearts I should be doing, because I want to buy this dip. So I'm doing what I need to do. And so sometimes I got to lose on one deal in order to have something so I can invest here and hopefully have the bigger gains. So I do it myself. But the one thing I do avoid are if, when, then deals. I believe these are the kiss and death. They're the home runs. So we should always be swinging for one or two of these things. But if, when, then deals are rough. And that means if this happens and when the stars align, then I get this. If, when, then. Those so rarely happen. If, when, then deals are just so those are the ones that eat us alive. And so I always have one or two of those going on. I mean, I got some big ones of those going on right now. If, when, thens, we'll eat like kings. On the same note, I really focus on hitting singles and doubles all day long. And by doing that, gives me the foundation of a strong, lucrative, I got revenue and cash flow, so I can keep swinging for the fences. And unfortunately, most entrepreneurs are always just going all in. And that's not a good way to live. Truett Cathy, real quick on this one. When I was in his office, billionaire had one poster thumbtack in the wall, and it was a mountain climber. It was so weird. It was so out of character. I mean, it made no sense. It's billions. It was incredible. Like a Hello Kitty poster. I go, I got to know, Truett, what the heck's with this poster, man? It doesn't make sense. And he goes, well, that's how I ran my business. And that's why Chick-fil-A is what it is. He goes, this is the true entrepreneurial mindset, the way you want to be. And I said, what does that mean? He says, an entrepreneur, we all see the top of that mountain, and we all have drive. We all have energy. We all have passion. We all have enthusiasm, and we run up that mountain. He goes, but all of us are going to have a slip. And depending where you're at, you're going to either slip all the way to the bottom or just going to slip because you didn't go up very far. He goes, but that mountain climber, he does something special. And that's my mindset. He carries with him carabiners, these little metal clips. He goes up about 20 feet and he ties himself off. He goes up 20 feet and ties himself off. He goes, because I know I'm going to have a slip. And when I do, I don't want to go to the bottom. I just want to go down 20 feet so I can reclimb again. He goes, by changing that mindset, changed everything. And that's why we are where we are today.
Oh, man. Another one, man.
Thank you.
Let's go to, we'll go to David, and then we'll go to Kevin. David, your hand's still up. There you are.
Yeah. Thanks, Devin. Greg, I'm a fellow author myself. 3 years ago, I wrote a book about a famous basketball player here in Philly, and I'm writing my second one now. I have a publisher. And, someone told me that, no one's going to market your book more than yourself. And I'm curious, from a marketing standpoint, just marketing in general, getting sales, like, were you like your own like book media whore? I would use that in a nice way to like get as much people to buy your book as possible. Like, what worked for you, and how did you get people that you didn't think to buy your book to buy your books? Like, how did that work for you?
Great questions. And the answer is yes, you are your biggest marketer. Yes, all those things are true. So I believe in the power of leverage and the power of, win-win relationships. So I'll give you an example. When we did this book, when Napoleon Hill wrote Think and Grow Rich, he was turned down for 15 years from every single publisher in New York. They said, if Aristotle and Socrates couldn't figure out the formula of success, what makes some kid think he could do it? And when I did 3 Feet from Gold, I was not turned down by every publisher. They just canceled their appointment and never met with me because they're saying, who is this guy to follow in this? Who the hell are you, right? That was the idea. And when Sharon Lecter came on board, we ended up opening up doors of opportunity. And we realized that the only bookstore left in America was one called Barnes and Noble. That was the last one of the Mohicans. So what happened is Sharon got a meeting with the owner of Barnes and Noble, where we sat down at a table with them and did the first ever joint venture deal where they published our book. We took no royalty, we took no advance up front. We split the royalties, and the deal was that they published this themselves. So it's the first and only book in history that was published by Barnes and Noble through their sister company. And by doing that, every time you walk into a bookstore, whose book was front and center everywhere you go. Right now, FedEx Kinko's, someone from FedEx fell in love with it. You cannot go to a FedEx Kinko's and not find my books on their little really thing. And the idea is that you have to get groundswell. And it starts by two different ways. This is the truth for authors. One, book clubs. 99.4% of everyone that writes a book sells 100 copies or less, because that's all your family and friends will buy. That's it. 99.4% sell 100 copies or less. So the secret is you find one book club that's got 100 members. You pitch that one person to buy your book, all 100 have to buy. So you economy of scale, you do that. Now imagine getting a book club with 1,000 or 10,000. That's what we did. We went to network marketing companies, and we realized that someone had a 10,000 person downline and they promoted it and only 10% bought. That's 1,000 books. So we started using leverage tools and leverage points. And by doing that, more people got it in their hands. And by doing that, opened up these doors of opportunity.
Thank you.
That
Appreciate it.
strategy with business too. You know, like who is your power partners, right? And then who could you get in front of that have access to hundreds of people that could potentially use your service? Great stuff. Kevin the Duke, he goes, what are the best ways to decipher between opinions and counsel? You try to throw me off with that big word, decipher, Kev. I see what you did there.
Yeah, well, again, who's getting the actual results you want? I'll give you an example. Someone comes up to me and says, here's what you should do to fix your car or whatever it is. I'll say, great, I appreciate that. What gives you the authority to share that information? Is that what you've done yourself? Oh, I don't know. I just heard it somewhere. That's what you should do. I let that go. But if I go up to someone and they say, you should do this to your car. What gives you the authority? Oh, well, I've been a mechanic for 15 years. In fact, I've worked on these things, and this is what you want to look for. Boom, counsel. That's it. Have the courage to ask the question. What makes you an expert?
That right there. I mean, not many people do that. Like, you know, it's like, even when you get referred to people, it's like, well, you know, you just know this person, or are they good at what they do? Like, how do I know they're good at what they do? Right. And not just you're passing me on to somebody. Yeah.
People overthink stuff, which that's the biggest challenge. I mean, people just overthink, and that's what tends to hold them back. And by the way, I'm going to do this. If somebody wants a copy of this, I'll give one copy. Just tell me who you want me to give it to and their address, and I'll autograph it and I'll send it to them so they've got one. Okay.
I'm going to buy a copy of all your books, and we'll do like a giveaway. Like we have some other speakers who have books too. So we'll do the same with you guys.
Good. Sounds like a plan. All right. You guys got me for about 3 or 4 minutes. I got to go.
All right. Who else has another question, guys? You got somebody who wrote books with Bob Proctor on this call right now. Does anybody else have a question? Let me see here. Make sure no hands are raised. Anybody going once? Don't be shy.
You're wondering how I keep my beard so cool looking. I understand. I get that question a lot. So here's what I do. And by the way, you said about a star on the Hollywood. I didn't get that. I got a star on the Las Vegas Strip, right across from Bellagio, in front of the Paris Hotel. So I'm six from Elvis Presley. I'm next to all these things, and some knucklehead from California. It's so interesting. And now they asked me to serve on the board of advisors for the stars. So now I get to help pick who gets down on the permanent markers moving forward. So it's pretty neat.
That's incredible. All right, we got Ken. Ken, you didn't ask a question yet. Saw your hand raised. Let's go, brother.
Wait. By the way, what's my favorite book? Read this book. It's by Jim Stovall, called The Ultimate Gift. It's also a movie. It's a Christian-based book and film that I recommend to everyone. He is my hero, living legend, and he and I just wrote a book together that will be coming out this year in a very, very big way. So Jim Stovall, The Ultimate Gift.
Well, thanks, Devin. Hey, Greg, how are you?
Amazingly great. Talk to me.
Awesome. Listen, thanks so much. This has been really unfriggin' believable. I would like to ask you though, like you obviously written a lot of books from great people. You persevered, but like, what was it before you got to where you got to? Like, what was the road for you getting to that pinnacle or whatever, or the beginning of the pinnacle? What was it for you?
So I wish we had another hour, because when I could take you down a rabbit hole now that you would just blow your mind. So from age 20 to 40, I had one job. I was in advertising sales, and I started my own company later in life. And then I sold it based on one conversation. Someone came to my office. I cannot tell you who it was. I don't even know if they're real to this day, because it was so strange. And basically they taught me something called the success equation. It's P plus T times A squared plus F is success. Math test. P, passion. People say, go find your passion and the money will follow. Such bullshit. Watch American Idol. These kids got passion, but majority of them suck. So if you're passionate and you suck, you ain't going to make it. But if P plus T is talent, if you're passionate about singing and you're talented, well, you got a shot. It starts lining up. But the first A, you got to do something. It's called action. You got to do something with that God-given gift. But the second A is the most important. That's association. If you're passionate about singing and you're talented, you're willing to pay your dues, you aligned with someone in the music industry that could open the doors and had the faith that that's your journey, that's your success equation. Everyone's got to find theirs. And someone asked me that question. And I said, well, if I could do anything and do it for free, my passion would be a teacher. I go, but there's no money in it and I'm not educated. My talent is I'm full of shit. I'm a great talker. I got in trouble my whole life. This is my gift. And he goes, well, how could you take action with the right people? I go, I could become one of those motivational speaker author guys. And they said, why don't you do that? And I remember I go, I could do that? 3 days later, I put my business up for sale. And here we are today.
Just when I thought the hit stop, you hit me with this math equation are unbelievable. All right, guys, listen, I hope your notes are full and you know, listen, remember, use the community, take action on everything you learn, share what you learn, guys. Most importantly, follow Greg, share this call, give him shout outs, whatever you got to do, buy his books. I'll drop all this information in the community. Greg, we are very honored to have you on here. We do not take it for granted, my friend, and we will make sure to follow you, support you, and just thank you so much.
You're welcome. I appreciate it. We'll see you all later. Bye.
Thanks, Greg.
Bye.
See you, Greg. All right, guys. Well, listen, that is man, that was great stuff. And like I said, I mean, we've had amazing speakers on here, but it's also my job to make sure that we take action on this stuff. So please don't let this be another thing where you're fired up for a day and then you just go back and doing the same things, guys. Like, write down like what you took from this, and guys, please share back in the community, because you could share a note. Like, I'm looking at some of these in here and I'm like, oh shit, that was a great point and I didn't write it down. So share in the community some of the notes that you got from this, so somebody can, oh, you know what, I want to take that and implement that. And some of this stuff, guys, like, there's tactical stuff, and then there's some stuff that you just need to bottle up as mental medicine, right? And maybe you don't need it today. Maybe you don't need it Tuesday, but maybe next Thursday, something happens in your day and you're feeling discouraged, or you're out of your peak performance zone, or something happens and you're like, you know what? I remember when they said that. This is when I'm taking that so I can win the day, right? This is what it's about, guys. So we're continuing to bring in, you know, some of the most incredible entrepreneurs literally in the world. So, you know, please take action on this stuff, guys. And I hope you found it helpful, guys. Share it, share the community so we can impact more people. The easiest way to do it is to share on social media the stuff that you learned today, guys. So let's keep on just contributing to the community. Let's connect. Let's get some accountability partners to take action on what you guys learned, and let's get the most out of this, guys. Have a great day, and let us know if you need anything.
Thanks, Devin. That was amazing.
See you guys.
Thanks, Dev.